because we got a new little bit of ear goodness to talk about. These are another collaboration between hifigo and Z Reviews, Pantera. We've looked at a pairing of this kind before, of this kind of collaboration with the Z12s. So this is a little bit different. I don't exactly know the details about this collaboration, but this is a collaboration still between Z Reviews and hifigo through SeeAudio. And what we'll be looking at today are the Rinkos. Oh, you thought we were talking about headphones. No, we're talking about waifus today. That's all it is. This is just a waifu episode. Hooray, right? But no. They just happen to have waifus on the box because of course they do. But yeah, the Rinko 1DD plus 1 planar in-ear monitors. Hooray. This is an in-ear monitor, IEM, and they're a little interesting. They're kind of cool. And before we get too much into it, I'll just go ahead and give you a quick look-see of what they look like. Now, do note that the cable on here is not stock, so I'll explain later, but here we go. Here they are, the Rinkos, the Rinko IEM. They are fairly plain looking, fairly, simple design, which is a little wild considering the packaging, but they're nice. They're very kind of classy looking. But yes, this cable is extra flash. Don't read too much into that. We'll talk about that later when we get to accessories, but yeah, the Rinkos. They're cool. And what's interesting about them is that they're a little bit of a hybrid IEM. My understanding of how they're built, actually, I think we have a little bit of a diagram we can look at together here. Maybe not. Maybe I'm totally full of it. They're basically a hybrid IEM. They are a dynamic driver coupled with a planar driver. I'm not sure if the planar is just a tweeter, but my understanding is you have your typical dynamic driver construction, and then kind of in front of that dynamic driver is a planar driver, I suppose, to kind of help hit those faster, crisper high notes. I don't have my diagram here, but if you're watching on YouTube, you get the diagram right here. There it is. That's how it's built, supposedly. It's pretty cool. I myself have not heard of SeeAudio before, but we have, again, looked at hifigo stuff. And it's just cool stuff. If we're talking about build quality, they are built like really kind of nice, sturdy IEMs. There's not a whole lot to talk about. They have kind of a, I assume, an aluminum construction. Has a bit of a tip-tap to it. The face here, where it has the Rinko screen printing, is your kind of aluminum chassis. And then below that is a semi-clear plastic, very, very thick, robust plastic going into the construction of how the fit and the driver housing. They do have, it's very, very subtle, very hard to see probably on the camera here, but they are labeled L&R. This is the left channel here, hence the little tiny itty bitty L right there. They have fairly large speaker holes. Look at that. It's a good size. I don't know exactly what size it is, but it's nice. It's pretty big. You got your basic 2-pin gold cable connector, so you could replace this with many, many types of cables and fun stuff, which I have done. The cable that they come with is a nice cable. I'll show it off here in a minute. They come in this nice little, very pretty, very waifu approved SeeAudio branded jewelry box. In there was where you would have your cable and your IEMs, but the cable that they come with is a nice cable. There's no reason not to use it. But when I bought these, there just happened to also be a really nice set of purple Linsol cables that I couldn't say no to. But anyway, here's what the basic cable looks like. It's nice. It's a nice silver braid. It's a tight braid. It's kind of a twisty braid, but it drapes well. It's a good length. It's a nice cable, for sure. But it's not pimping like this. This neon purple frickin', look at this thing. I'm in love with this cable. Look at that weave, man. Whew. If nothing else, Linsol knows how to make a real badass IEM cable. So yeah, I got that pairing just because, but you can definitely serve just fine with the cable that they come with. So yeah, they come in the waifu box, and they have a couple other little accessories. We showed off the box, the little jewelry box. We took a look at the cable. They also come with this Z Review branded little bag that has some additional tips inside. I haven't actually opened this to see what kind of tips they are. Let's have a look here. We've seen these before with the last TINHIFIs we looked at. They're a silicone outer cover with a memory foam insert there. If you can see that, it's a little hard to see. But the inside is a memory foam, and the outer coating is a nice, very smooth and cool to the touch silicone. So it's a hybrid tip, which I find to be quite comfortable. They also come with a fun little waifu card. If you really want to add more to your waifu, there you go. She's a gamer waifu too. Whoa. And then, because it can't be, you know, less silly. In case the box wasn't enough for you, they also included this little cardboard. You can fold out this little easel back here and have a little portrait of your waifu so you can place on your desk or your shelf in case you just need them to be somewhere else. So there you go. Thank you very much, hifigo. It's a very Zeos thing. It's fine. So comfort, IEM comfort is a very strange thing to talk about, but they are very light. They are made, you know, they're built from aluminum and plastic, so there's not a whole lot of weight in there, so you're not worried about them being like little tiny weights in your ears. And then the foam tips, you find the right size for you, the right kind of tips that work for you, and you're going to be fine. They can be comfortable under the right circumstances. I have not found the right circumstances for myself with these just yet. We've been wearing them for only like an hour so far, and my ears are on fire right now, but that's fine. That's going to be more my problem than your problem. Your mileage is going to vary depending on your fit and finish and what works for you for IEMs. So the sound, we're already up to sound because, hey, what else you could talk about? These are interesting. What I went out of my way to do, because this is yet another collaboration with hifigo and Zeos, I did make sure to bring out my Z12s for a direct comparison. Now, the Z12s are a different kind of IEM, and we are going to have to consider that as we talk about it. But it's, you know, another collaboration between hifigo and Zeos. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. How do the new Rinkos compare with his old Z12s? How do the Rinkos sound? My goodness, they are I'm trying to think of what they're trying to achieve. They are one hell of a bombastic IEM. The bass impact of these little IEMs is pretty phenomenal. It is hard-hitting, it is pounding, it is chest-bumping bass, and it makes everything you're listening to sound pretty gigantic. Enormous booming sound. It's very fun, but it is a little bit much with the bass range. I will come out front though and mention that I haven't had a lot of time to burn these in, and I do know that Zeos himself said that burn-in is a little bit of a requirement for these, or he at least really recommends it. So it could be that with a bit more burn-in, that really huge amount of bass will get a little bit more under control, but fairly out of the box, it's a lot. It's a lot. It is fun, and it does resonate really, really well. It feels huge. It feels like it's right inside your chest, but it is veiling. It's a veiling amount of bass. It's a tremendous amount of bass. It's not a whole bunch of sub bass. It's not hitting super, super deep, but it is just a lot of it. It's huge. It does have a tendency to bleed a bit into your mid-range, and mid-range itself is a little recessed, a little pushed away. This is a very intimate listening experience. It's a very narrow soundstage. It's not very wide, but the mid-range is not front and center. It's a bit pushed to the side. There might be because the bass is so present and so impactful that it's just kind of pushing that mid-range away. But it is overall a very warm, a very punchy, and a very dark sound signature. The treble range is kind of surprising in how dark it is. It's not so much that it is lacking in the treble. It's got it there, and it can hit fairly decent details, but it is pretty noticeably rolled off. You're not getting a huge amount of detail, and you're not getting very high notes. It's very comfortable to listen to. It's a very smooth and easy listening experience, but not a very super detailed one. And that's fine. I don't think it's trying to be. It's not trying to be a analytical monitoring IEM. It is overall a very enjoyable listening experience, especially if you really want a bunch of thwomp and boom. If you don't want a bunch of thwomp and boom, if the thwomping and booming of the Rinkos is too much for you, well, then you go for the Z12s, because compared to the Rinkos, the Z12s are a much more controlled IEM. The Z12s still have very nice impactful bass with pretty good sub bass, but it's a lot more well controlled than it is with the Rinkos. It's not going crazy and bleeding everywhere and veiling into your mid-range. It stays pretty much where it needs to be, but while still being very enjoyable and fun. The Z12s are also a wider soundstage than the Rinkos. Just a bit, not a huge amount, but the Rinkos are a very intimate listening experience, to the point where the Z12s sound like they do have a bit of width to them, a bit of space and air. So if you want to have a bit more soundstage and a bit more control in your bass range, go with the Z12s. If you want to have a more bombastic, crazy, explosive experience, then yeah, the Rinkos are where it's at. I do think that overall, the Z12s have a more realistic and accurate sound, a bit more mature in the sound signature, I suppose. But the Z12s are a full-on planar magnetic driver IEM, so that's a totally different kind of technology. I know that there is a planar in the Rinkos. They are a dynamic and planar combo somehow, and that's fine, but there's a noticeable difference in how they sound. These still sound like a big boomy dynamic driver, whereas the Z12s definitely have that planar speed and snappiness, so they're a lot faster than the Rinkos. Your imaging in the Rinkos is decent. I was able to get some pretty good range all around me. There wasn't a whole lot of spatial awareness. There was a little bit, but it was fairly narrow. It felt like everything was pretty close to me, and I know that might be a bit to do with how narrow the soundstage is, but the accuracy of the imaging was good, and it did feel like things were flying over my shoulders, especially for stuff like games, but it still felt very narrow, and it didn't feel super precise. It kind of felt like I can get a general sense of where things are rather than like very accurately pinpointing where they were. In comparison, the Z12s I do feel have a more impressive imaging. It's a better sense of space, and it does give me a much more accurate direction of where things are coming from, where it's not just this general sense of stuff flying over my head. I feel like I can actually visualize where things are with the Z12s versus the Rinkos, which are a bit more kind of a general idea. So, okay, we're making lots of comparisons with the Z12s, and it kind of sounds like the Z12s are a little bit nicer. Well, the Z12s are also a little bit more expensive. They're $150. The Rinkos are even 100, maybe like 110. But I think it's a little hard to say on what I would recommend, because they are pretty different, and it's a little bit surprising to me because with it being a collaboration with Zeos, I would expect them to be fairly similar. So I'm kind of glad that they're not. I'd rather them be different and have their own unique characteristics. But in a nutshell, if you want to have your Zeos IEMs, the Z12s are more of a audio enthusiast kind of sound, whereas the Rinkos are more of a fun kind of sound. If you just want to have a bombastic, fun, crazy time, you're gonna like the Rinkos. But if you want to have something that's a bit more controlled and faster and speedier with a bit more range, a bit more width, you're probably gonna want to go with the Z12s. No Zeos branding on the Rinkos, oddly enough. You got a little bit of branding on the Z12, this little tiny little itty bitty little Z logo right there, but no branding on the Rinkos. Interesting. So it's, you know, it's a toss-up. I do like them. I like the Rinkos, but I think, if I'm being totally honest, for my tastes between the two, I'm probably going to lean more towards the Z12 probably 8 out of 10 times. These are fun, but they seem pretty situational. I don't know. So there's your quick, wow, we really got through that one pretty quick. Quick and short and sweet little headphone highlight for your Rinko IEM collaboration with hifigo and Zeos Pantera at Z Reviews. Yeah, more stuff coming down the pipeline. I got another IEM, I'm doing quotations and you'll find out why, for next time, and it'll be a fun one, so look forward to that. And we're gonna go ahead and get back to the game.